different forms of your passion and doing your best to express them all to be your true self.
Yeah, it's like Bashar always says, follow your passion, follow your bliss. Yeah,
because that is who you are. In other words, we have the physical mind and we have the non-physical higher mind. What we experience as the sensation of passion, excitement, creativity, love, that's actually our body's physical translation of the language of the higher mind, which is just energy frequencies. But that's how we translate it. So when we're willing to act physically on our passion, because physical action is the language of physical reality, when we do that, we are actually answering the higher mind who's sent the passion energy to us and saying, I hear you, and I'm willing to align with that. And I'll show you I am by acting on it. And then the higher mind can reinforce that. And it becomes this relationship that keeps building.
What is the higher mind?
It's the non-physical side of ourselves. It's the spirit side of ourselves. The idea being that what we call a soul sort of splits itself to have a physical experience into two. It creates or remains partly non-physical and creates a physical focus that allows us to experience ourselves as physical beings. But the higher mind sort of remains on the mountaintop while the physical mind is sort of down in the valley and wandering around. But it can't see around the next corner. But the higher mind can. So when the higher mind's going, go this way, go this way, go this way, by sending us the idea of this would be exciting, this would be passionate, wouldn't it? If we go with that, then we follow a path of least resistance because it's guiding us from on high because it has a broader perspective. If we ignore it, then it's going, well, okay, go ahead, but you're going to probably fall into some holes because I'm telling you to go this way. So we purposely always maintain guidance from on high when we decide to have a physical incarnation because this physical reality is really nothing more than, in a sense, a dream. It's like we don't really ever leave spirit. That's our natural state, but we're dreaming that we have. And no matter how solid this seems, it's an illusion.
Yeah, even in physics.
Even in physics, they know that. So metaphysics and physics are starting to kind of overlap in certain ways. I know a lot of physicists don't like to hear that, but I do believe that that's true.
After watching thousands of different times the double-slit experiment, I'm completely convinced.
Entanglement and all that. I know. Yes. But that's okay. You know, they have a way that they need to express those concepts, and that's fine. But I do see more and more physicists on the cutting edge going, you know, we've been hearing this for thousands of years. And it's just that they like to find the math that demonstrates it, and that's great, because that's another language. That's fine. But that's, I think, what's happening is we're seeing an expansion of knowledge, an overlapping of knowledge, to where more and more people can understand that we're creating this reality with our belief systems. We're here to discover ourselves from another point of view. That's why we have physical reality. It's almost like you have to forget who you are in order to remember who you are from another angle, another perspective, and discover something more. And that's how reality grows, because the structure of reality, the basic structure, never changes. It is what it is. Existence is what it is. But our experience of reality, our experience of existence, our perspective of existence, that's what always changes. And that's how creation expands. Not that the structure expands. The experience of the structure expands.
So then we come along and we want to say to you, you are a thinking mechanism, but you're not only a thinking mechanism that is the brain here in this body, you are a thinking mechanism who is an extension of a true thinking mechanism. And when you get in concert with the mind that is really you, now your life takes on new shape and new form and new meaning and new satisfaction, you see. And so, but the only way you can know if you've melded with that mind is by having your ear to the vibration of it. In other words, you can tell by the way you feel that alignment, you see. So if you're trying to think your way through something, in 99 out of 100 cases, trying to think your way to it, you're not in alignment with it. And then you feel unfulfilled, and then you feel fragmented. And that's why we say, now that was really good. That was what you've helped us to reach for and find a better description of that. So let's make the most of this right here and now, because we've come to a new place, all of us. You are mind, but you are not the mind that you associate with your brain. Your brain helps you to focus thoughts. And your brain gives you a sort of tiptoeing into your mind. But your brain, without your awareness of emotions, can never lead you to the mind that is really you. And what's just driving you nuts is that you can use your analytical thinking brain and you can sort out all of the content of this time-space reality and never really hook up with the mind that is really you. And until you do that, you're not satisfied. Now that's what Esther hooks up to in this process. In other words, she brings herself into vibrational alignment with the mind that is source. And then that mind can focus upon the details of whatever you're living, you see. But you've got to bring yourself into vibrational compliance with that. So when you wake up from your dream, don't try to think about what it was about. Feel what it was about. And then try to find a thought that feels a little better that was contained within the dream. And you're going to show yourself that you can manage those dreams. And when you do, then you'll understand that you can manage everything about your life experience. You can. You can manage it, you see. You don't need to. It's just so fun. You don't need to manage life on planet Earth. It's managed from that broader mind. But isn't it nice to manage your own life experience here in this physical body with that which is the mind of source flowing through you, you see? That was good. That was really good.
The structure of existence is expressed by Bashar in what he calls the 5 laws. The first law is you exist. There's nothing you can do to change that because existence is its own quality. And what exists can't become non-existent. It can change form, but it can't become non-existent. There's a more complex way of saying why that's true, but one of the easiest ways to explain it is when Bashar says the reason that existence can't become non-existent is because by definition non-existence doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it never will become anything other than what it is as existence itself. Mm-hmm. That's the first law. Mm-hmm. The second is everything is here and now. Time and space are an illusion. Mm-hmm. The third is the one is the all are the one. Everything is made of the one thing, mm-hmm. and the one thing experiences itself as everything that it is. Mm-hmm. The fourth is what you put out is what you get back, what a lot of people call the law of attraction, what some people call karma, but not in a punishing way. It's just a reflection. In other words, physical reality is like a mirror. What you put out, it has no choice but to send that back to you in some way, shape, or form. And the fifth law is everything changes except the laws. They're the structure. But what changes, again, as I said, is your experience and perspective of the structure.
Wait, so those 5 laws are true for every reality? Or for
anywhere, anytime, anyhow. Mm-hmm. They are a description of the structure of existence mm-hmm. itself. Mm-hmm. Everything else, according to Bashar, is an opinion, a perspective, a belief. And those can be changed. Mm-hmm. But the structure can never be changed because mm-hmm. it is what it is.
These laws are eternal, which means they are forever. These laws are universal, which means they are everywhere. They are absolute, whether you know that they are or not. They exist, whether you accept that they exist or not. And they influence your life, whether you know that they do or not. When we use the word law, we are not referring to the earthly agreements that many of you term law. You have a law of gravity, and you have the law of time and space, and you have many laws, even laws regarding the controlling of your traffic and the behavior of your citizens. But when we use the word law, we are speaking of those everlasting, ever-present laws, and there are not so many of them as you might believe that there are. While we have already discussed fully on separate recordings the law of attraction and the law of deliberate creating, we will express them here briefly because an understanding of those laws is necessary before an understanding of the law of allowing can be. if you will come to understand and apply these three basic laws, you will have an understanding of how your universe functions. You will have an understanding of how everything that comes into your experience comes. You will recognize that you are the inviter, the creator, the attractor of all things that come unto you. And you will indeed then have deliberate control of your own life experience. And in all of that, you will then, and only then, be free. Freedom comes through an understanding of how you're getting what you're getting. And so here we will express the rules of your game of physical experience. And we do so enthusiastically because they are the same rules of the game of all life, whether it is physical life experience or non-physical life experience. The most powerful law in the universe is the law of attraction. And that law simply says that that which is likened to itself is drawn. You say, birds of a feather flock together. That is your awareness of the law of attraction. You notice that when bad things begin to happen in your life, it seems that everything starts to go wrong. You notice that when you wake up in the morning feeling good, you have a happier day, where when you begin the day with a fight with someone, that you find your day negative in many regards. That is your awareness of law of attraction. And indeed, everything that you are experiencing, from the most obvious to the most subtle, is influenced by this powerful law of attraction. When you think about something that pleases you, by law of attraction, other thoughts that are similar to it will begin to come forth. When you think of something that displeases you, by law of attraction, other thoughts that are like it will begin to come forth, until you find yourself reaching into your past for more of the thoughts. You find yourself discussing with others, until you find yourself surrounded by a larger and larger, ever-growing larger thought. And as this thought is growing larger and larger, it is gaining momentum, it is gaining power, attraction power. An understanding of this law puts you in a position where you may focus your thoughts only in the direction of what you are wanting to attract into your experience, while you may take your attention from those thoughts that you are not wanting to draw into your experience. The law of deliberate creating is described in this way. That which I give thought to, I begin to attract. That which I give thought to with emotion, I attract more quickly. And once I have launched it powerfully by giving thought with emotion, then as I expect that which I have thought about, I get it. The balance of deliberate creating is two-sided, so to speak. On the one hand is the thought, and on the other hand is the expectancy, or the belief, or the allowing. And so when I have given thought to something, and now I am expecting it or believing that it will be, now I am in the perfect position to receive the subject of my thought. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. Your thoughts are powerful, attractive magnets. They attract to themselves, and you attract them to you by giving thought to them. When you feel lonely, you attract more loneliness. When you feel poor, you attract more poverty. When you feel sick, you attract more sickness. When you feel unhappy, you attract more unhappiness. When you feel healthy and vital and alive and prosperous, you attract more of all of those things. The way you feel is your point of attraction. And so the law of attraction is most understood when you see yourself as a magnet getting more and more of the way you feel. It is usually easier to see these laws at work when you look into others' experiences. You will notice that those who speak most of prosperity have it. Those who speak most of health have it. Those who speak most of sickness have it. Those who speak most of poverty have it. It is law. It can be no other way. We are teachers, and in all of our experiences of teaching, we have learned this most important fact. Words do not teach. It is life experience that brings you your knowing. And so we encourage you to reflect into your own life experience, to remember those things that you have experienced before, and to begin watching from this point forward for the absolute correlation between the words that you are hearing here on this recording and the life experience that you are living. For it is our knowing that there is not a shred of evidence that exists anywhere in your universe that is to the contrary of what you have just heard on this recording. And so if you will begin to notice that you are getting what you are thinking about, then and only then will you be wanting to pay attention to, in fact, to deliberately control your thoughts.
A lot of people will have a trouble understanding how is it that you have your own ego, meaning like you have your own self.
Sure.
But then you are like one with everyone, right?
Both are true.
Right. And then how can that exist everywhere and anywhere?
Well, it's a holographic structure.
Okay.
One way that Bashar has kind of described it is imagine yourself standing in a hall of mirrors. You're seeing an infinite number of reflections of yourself from different angles, but you're still you. So what's happening there is both a number of reflections and the whole experience at once, that is the one that everything is made of. So you have to have both. In other words, what he's explained is he's answered what is consciousness. Consciousness is, to him, self-awareness. It is the ability to know the self by knowing that there is also other than the self. So existence to him is self-reflective. Existence wouldn't know itself if it wasn't. If it was completely, truly homogeneous, there would be no awareness of another and then no awareness of a self by difference. So consciousness to him is literally the product of self-reflective existence that can create within itself the idea of an other than itself. And by creating an idea of other than, you get the reflection of self. I'm different than that. That's different than me. Even though it's still made of the same thing. But it's happening within existence, not outside of it. So we are both the one and everything in the one. Because there's nothing outside of it. It is everything. It's the only thing you can make anything from. But we're all reflections of it. So it can experience itself as the one, all the reflections, and it can experience itself as all the individual reflections. So it's a very holographic kind of thing. This was expressed actually very poetically thousands of years ago by a concept that was called Indra's net. And Indra's net was a collection, almost like a necklace, if you want to say, or an interlocking web of perfect pearls. Because if you look at any pearl in the net, it actually contains the reflections of every other pearl in the net. So you only have to go to one pearl to get all the information of the entire net, but that doesn't discount that there are also many pearls in the net, each having its own point of view. So it's that kind of holographic relationship that existence is built on, and how it experiences itself as everything that it can possibly be.
So is there a conscious then? Because meaning...
Yeah, consciousness is built in.
Yes, well, it's everything and anything.
Everything is a form of consciousness.
Right, but it almost makes it... if you make an analogy as a computer or holographic reality, is it real consciousness then?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes. Because everything is built out of consciousness. So it may express consciousness very differently than we recognize. Here's a good example. Somebody asked Bashar once, are rocks conscious? He says, well, they're made of consciousness. They're not consciously expressing themselves in the way that you are. But look at it this way. Are you aware of the rock? Yes. Well, it's aware of itself through your awareness of it, but it's not aware of itself in the same way you're aware of yourself. In a sense, it's almost using you as a reflection to point out that it's an individual rock. Mm-hmm. So however it actually experiences that may be very alien to us and very foreign to us and nothing like the way we think of our own consciousness, but it's still a reflection of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And it may have very different ways of understanding that have nothing to do with the way we call understanding.
Consciousness is energy. But when you use the word consciousness, now you can more easily understand levels of consciousness. Of course, there are levels of energy too. But once you use the word consciousness on top of the word energy in the way we are presenting it, now you are talking about consciousness. In other words, there's consciousness in your soil. There's consciousness in the tree. Esther thought about that a lot yesterday. She said, "Tree, what do you think about all of this?" And then she plugged her ears because she was afraid she might hear something she didn't want to hear. There's consciousness in everything. There's energy in everything. But consciousness in the fullest sense is aware of itself and specifically directing thought for the purpose of expansion. That's the distinction we would make. But everyone, this is interesting, everyone who uses every word gets to define what they mean when they use it. Haven't you noticed? Like the word karma. So many different things meant by that word.
Consciousness, people use that. They all have a slightly different meaning to it as well.
If we are to say to you that you are fully conscious in this moment, what we would mean by that is life has caused you to expand and expand and expand, and your becoming has been swirling in this vortex of creation, and the larger part of you has become all that you have asked for. And when you are fully conscious, you are a perfect vibrational match to that. And the way you would know you are fully conscious in that moment would be by the emotional high that you are feeling in the moment. You would feel frisky. You would feel elation. You would feel joy. Your best feeling emotions are your indications of your most alignment with that highest consciousness. Now, many would say, but is there a consciousness higher than the consciousness of that which I'm hooking up with? And we say, of course. Your inner being has an inner being who has an inner being. There is no limit to this consciousness. And within all of this consciousness is focus. So humans are always reaching for the highest consciousness. And it sort of serves as a disadvantage as they are pigeonholing everything. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would be reaching for alignment with the source that is within us, understanding that the source that is within us is in alignment with all consciousness. So when you hook up with you, you have access to infinite intelligence. That's high consciousness.
Thank you.
Again, I'm sure there can be.
It exists.
Yes, but it's not the science fiction concept of time travel.
Not, yeah.
Bashar basically has explained that what you're actually doing is simply shifting into a parallel reality that looks like your past, but it's not yours. It's a different parallel reality. So the idea of creating those so-called time paradoxes can't actually exist. If you have a time machine and you go back to when you were younger and visit yourself, you're not actually visiting yourself. You're visiting a young version of yourself in another parallel reality that's very similar to yours, but it's not yours. So the grandfather paradox can't really exist because, God forbid, you kill someone in that reality. That's their history. It's not your history.
Right.
You won't disappear because you come from another parallel reality. So time travel, sort of, but not in the science fiction way. No, not collapsing it. Because every possible timeline exists. So you're just shifting around.
Interesting.
More than anything.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, and he sort of demonstrated it physically in terms of what he's saying being physically real. So imagine you take a picture of yourself at 10 years old. Okay, there you are. There's the picture. And then you grow up and you're 30. And you take a picture of yourself at 30. There's the picture. Then you invent a time machine and decide, I'm going to go visit my 10-year-old self. So you get in the time machine, you go back, and you stand next to your 10-year-old self and take another picture. Well, Bashar says, but what have you got on the table? You have a different picture. The picture of the original 10-year-old is still a 10-year-old. It hasn't changed. The picture of you standing with the 10-year-old is a different picture. They both exist at the same time. So you didn't change that picture. You went to another reality where you could stand next to your 10-year-old self in that reality because all the photographs exist side by side. None of them disappear. They're all there.
I'd still go back. I'd want to see my parents, even if they're not mine.
Right. Well, no. And if the reality is so similar to yours, you can't really tell the difference, then yes, you could experience a lot of things and learn a lot of things. He just wants you to understand that you're not actually in your timeline anymore. That's all.
I wonder if you could address the notion of multiple worlds, that what's happening when we vibrate and attract
other probable realities
that
have been spawned by your train of thought. What do you think is the root from which they split into other realities?
The only answer that I could give is that the being is able to experience all possible permutations or versions of an event.
And so would you speculate that it is possible that your inner being would be the source of that splitting? In other words, when you say being, the reason we were probing a little bit is to stimulate some thought and interest. The reality of it is that any time, let's call you the being that you were talking about, and let's say that you sit and ponder some events of your future, and you think about going forth and doing something, and you are very exhilarated about it. In the moment of your conceiving of that idea and projecting of thoughts, from our perspective, that reality exists. In other words, it plays out, and because the thought has been launched, the beings exist to live it out. 2 seconds after launching that, you say, because of your past experience, this is not likely.
Well, in fact, I've used this method many times when faced with a difficult decision. I might creatively imagine what it would be like to go down that path, and then I feel what that feels like. I almost get the sense that it's like a report.
That is very good process.
That I get back, and there's no rational reason why I should not, for example, take that action. But if I feel bad as a result of that, then I know that that's not what I want to do.
That is excellent.
Times when I've ignored that have invariably ignored that and gone ahead to take that action have invariably been unsatisfactory.
As we chew upon the idea of multiple realities or alternative realities, for most of our physical friends, they get bogged down in it very quickly because you cannot see beyond the boundaries of your perspective. And your perspective is very well rooted here, and with good reason. You have wanted very much to draw some power, poignant energy toward the specifics of this time and place, and so much so that you don't remember your broader perspective. Today, we watched Jerry and Esther as they left the hotel, and as they moved about, Jerry mused, it is interesting that as much traveling as we do, we never get even close to an automobile accident. It is as if anyone who is vibrating in that sort of frequency is vibrating very far out of our range. And as he offered that little stimulation of thought, and Esther pondered upon it for a moment, within the next 5 minutes, there were 7 near misses all around them. In other words, just by identifying that this was something that had not been a part of their reality, and then pondering for seconds, for less than 5 seconds, each of them, the string of near misses began to occur all around them. And so their perspective in the moment began to instantaneously alter their reality. It depends upon the vibration that they are projecting. With each utterance or offering or speculation of thought, are they actually setting realities in motion? And the answer is emphatically yes. With every thought that you utter or offer, you set a reality in motion. And there are other beings, physically and non-physically focused, who are the characters that play out the scenarios. In other words, there will be accidents in this city today that were spawned by the thoughts that Jerry offered. Now, that does not mean Jerry is the cause of those accidents. It means that Jerry's speculation about them, coming into combination with other thoughts about it, and other people being more in the vibration of that, will bring it about. Every thought that you think, every thought that you contemplate, every word that you articulate, every gathering that you involve yourself in, every time you watch a television program, anytime you participate with thought within anything, you are setting the course of future reality somewhere. You see, the only difference between what you call reality and what we are talking here in terms of probable realities is that the reality that most say is real is the reality where there is more agreement. And as those offshoots exist longer and more give attention to them, then they amass a sort of physicality that then there would be more that would agree about.